All right, today we are diving deep into Zechariah chapter 9. It's an ancient prophecy, but it's all about a king whose victory wasn't about conquest, but about humility, a kind of king the world had literally never seen before. So, this whole passage really makes you ask a pretty profound question. How do you even describe a king who wins not with war, but with peace? The prophet Zechariah took on this exact challenge, and his answer has been echoing through history for thousands of years. Okay, so let's get our bearings. This prophecy was written way back, around 520 BC. At the time, the Persian Empire was the big superpower. But Zechariah is looking way beyond the headlines of his day, seeing a totally different kind of kingdom coming over the horizon. And this gets us right to the heart of it. What's so amazing is that the prophecy doesn't start by talking about the king's armies or his riches. Nope. It starts with this specific and honestly kind of shocking way he shows up. Here it is, verse 9. This is what you call a direct messianic prophecy. It's all about a promised deliverer. Let's just unpack the description of this king for a second. He is just. He brings salvation. He is lowly or humble, and he rides in on a young donkey. Every single one of these words is deliberate, painting a picture of a ruler who is the complete opposite of what you'd expect. Now, Gis really puts that contrast in sharp focus. I mean, think about it. In the ancient world, a conqueror, someone like Alexander the Great, who would tear through this very region a couple of centuries later, would ride a powerful war horse. That's your symbol of military might. Zechariah intentionally picks a donkey, an animal associated with peace and everyday life. It's a complete flip of the script on what worldly power is supposed to look like. And then, fast forward over 500 years, and bam, this prophecy finds its direct fulfillment. During what's called the triumphal entry, Jesus of Nazareth rides into Jerusalem in this exact manner. The gospel writers who recorded this saw it not as some random coincidence, but as the precise, intentional fulfillment of Zechariah's words, identifying Jesus as this foretold, humble king. So, if the king himself arrives in peace, what is his kingdom like? Well, the very next verse in Zechariah pivots from the king's personal character to the actual nature of his reign. Verse 10 describes a kingdom that isn't just won through warfare. It's established by getting rid of warfare entirely. The prophecy says God will cut off the chariot and the horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off. This isn't just about a temporary ceasefire. We're talking about a fundamental disarmament at the very core of this new kingdom. And notice how specific it is. Ephraim and Jerusalem, these places represented the former northern and southern kingdoms of Israel. By saying the weapons of war will be removed from both, the prophecy is signaling a complete internal peace. The very tools for fighting are dismantled. And what replaces them? The king will speak peace to the nations. And this just brilliantly shows you the scale of his rule. Unlike earthly empires that have lines drawn on a map, this king's dominion is universal. It extends to the ends of the earth. This is understood to be a spiritual kingdom, one that breaks past physical borders to include all nations. It's really a prophecy of the gospel, a message of peace for the whole world. The prophecy wraps up this section with one more incredibly powerful image, the liberation of prisoners. But this freedom doesn't just happen. It comes through a very specific channel, a divine covenant, sealed by blood. Let's look at verse 11. The phrases that jump out are the blood of thy covenant and prisoners out of the pit. Now, that pit with no water, that was a terrifying image back then. It was often a dry cistern used as a dungeon. It symbolized a state of utter hopelessness, basically a living death. And the prophecy says that even from that place of total despair, prisoners will be set free. So what exactly is this blood of the covenant? Well, it has this incredible dual meaning. For Zechariah's original audience, it would have immediately brought to mind the covenant God made with Israel at Mount Sinai, which was sealed with animal sacrifices. But prophetically, in Christian theology, this is seen as pointing forward to the new covenant established through the sacrifice of Christ. And that means this promise of freedom also has a dual fulfillment. On one level, sure, it speaks to the historical release of Jewish exiles from places like Babylon, but on a much deeper, spiritual level, it prophesies an even greater kind of redemption, freedom from the pit of sin and spiritual death, a freedom that's offered to everyone through this new covenant. Okay, so when you put all of that together, what's the big takeaway? Zechariah 9 paints this complete picture for us, from the arrival of the king to the nature of his kingdom, all the way to the very foundation of its freedom. When you lay it out on a timeline like this, the sheer arc of it is incredible. You've got a prophecy from around 520 BC, right in the middle of the Persian Empire. It sees its first major fulfillment in Roman-occupied Jerusalem over 5 centuries later, and its ongoing fulfillment in a spiritual kingdom that is still spreading across the globe today. And all of this really leaves us with a final thought. Zechariah's prophecy was a radical idea for a world that only understood power through force and violence. And today, it really asks us the same thing. In our world, a world still so full of conflict, what is the real power of a king who comes in peace?